You guys are tuning in on Instagram. I'm about to go live on YouTube. I'll keep both going, but I won't be able to see your chat over here on Instagram. So I encourage you to watch on YouTube as well so you can get involved with the chat. All right, what's up, squad? Welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. Hang on one second. We got to fix that. We don't want echoes. We don't need ads running in the background. All right. So trying something new tonight. I've got Instagram going over here. I got YouTube going over here. If you're watching on Instagram, I do recommend you get over to YouTube and watch me over there because I'm not going to be able to see your chat and interact with you over here. It's just too hard to get both going at the same time. And you're going to miss a lot if you're not hanging out with the chat over here on YouTube. So let's go ahead and get things started. I want to say hi, first of all, to everybody who's been hanging out in chat before we went live. We had some interesting conversation going. Scott Hummer, thank you for joining in. I saw James there. I saw, let's see, Nerdy Prepper Treasurer Investor, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Let's see, I think I just saw a couple more people popping in as well. Orlando, thank you so much. Burpee Yoga Uncle. The dude, Sean, was he the one on Joe Rogan? I don't know if he's ever been on Joe Rogan or not. We're going to get to all that in just a minute. Utah Mike, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. All right. So, yeah, if you're watching on Instagram, guys, I recommend you. I got you over here. I got YouTube over here. I won't be able to see your chat. So if you want to participate in the chat, head on over to YouTube. So we're going to talk a little bit about the terrorism events this week. The two that I can speak to, anyways, was I was reading something about there was a third one too, but I don't even know anything about the third one. So specifically, we're talking about Baton Rouge. I'm sorry, Bourbon Street, New Orleans, and the Cybertruck event. Now, right before I went live, if you were in chat, you saw that I was talking about Sean Ryan. If you guys don't follow the Sean Ryan podcast, I strongly encourage you to because he has some really crazy good guests, a lot of whistleblowers, a lot of deep state information comes out through there, and you can take it for what it's worth. Some of it's probably bogus, some of it I'm sure is legit, but he had a guest on there today named Sam Shoemate. Now, I'm not familiar with this guy. Apparently he was an intelligence officer and chief warrant officer, and he alleges that he received an email from Matthew Livelsberger, who was the Cybertruck driver, prior to that event. And I'm going to tell you guys to go check this out rather than try to summarize it because I was trying to make heads or tails of it myself. But what he says is that this email, and it sounds like the email's legit. What it claims is that this guy, Matthew, the Cybertruck driver, is saying that he had intel on war crimes committed by our country, and that he was being followed for that, and that there's some other information in there about the drones, which ties into stuff we've been talking about for a month here. He claims that these drones are like really something different that we've never seen before, that are capable of carrying massive payloads, and they're a great security threat. Again, I don't know if that part's bogus or if this guy was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? So I'm going to say, rather than say I believe him or not, I believe the email was from the driver, and I believe the email is legit. As for what he's claiming, you're going to have to decide for yourself. So go ahead and check that out after we're done here tonight. That's the Sean Ryan podcast. Now, the other thing is recently he also had on Sarah Adams. Now, Sarah Adams was a former CIA advisor. And I am gonna put a link for this one because this has been out for long enough that if YouTube was going to take it down, it's been out for several weeks. If YouTube was going to take it down, they would have taken it down. So I'm going to put a link for this one up right now. And I want you to watch this one later on too. Now, Sarah Adams, this was before Christmas, was talking about that she had really good intel that the United States was about to undergo terrorism attacks. And I think you guys should watch that because it doesn't sound like what we just experienced is going to be the end of it. Now, I'm not trying to cause hysteria or anything like that. We always know this is always a possibility. The United States has many enemies, including within its own borders, right? We know this. And so there's always this possibility, and we knew this was going to happen at some point or not. In fact, we talked about it on this channel at some point that this is, probably going to see some kind of a attack, hopefully small scale, on the mainland within 2025. Well, first day of 2025, we had two, right? So what I am going to focus on tonight, and we'll get to chat here in a second, and I want to see your thoughts on all this stuff. And I ask you again, please keep it, keep our chat non-sexist, non-racist. Basically keep it clean. And I want to hear your thoughts on all this stuff. But then we're gonna transition into like what can we as preppers do about this? How do we prepare? Because that's really what my channel is about, more so than like scaring the crap out of you about what else is out there. I do have at the top of chat, this is for the people on YouTube. At the top of chat, I have a poll question that I want you to answer, and we'll try to come back to that at the end. Poll question for tonight is, do you think there's sleeper cells in the United States? Yes or no? That's the poll question. Go ahead and vote if you haven't already. All right, let me check your chat here, and then we're going to get some conversation going. Thank you everybody for joining in. I really appreciate everybody. So I look forward to talking to you all on Friday nights, and then I appreciate that you all share a little bit of your time with me. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everybody who's just turning in. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Rural, thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Okay. Was that what it was? Is the train? Was that considered a terrorism event? I haven't been able to follow that story close enough. JS Genesis, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. Yeah, so this here, and if you don't want to like type in all those letters, just go to YouTube, search Sean Ryan Show, and then look for the one with Sarah Adams. That was December 12th, I believe. And then the one for today was Sam Shoemate. Okay. Recommend you watch both of those. I don't know. I assume I got to think about that now, Scott. I got to think about that. My thought on it was that I assumed it was a self-inflicted wound, and that he had like a suicide switch or whatever, that basically when he goes limp, it activates the switch, car blows up. Yeah, that's hey Sassy, it's so good to see you. That interview with Sarah Adams is great. It is a little bit frightening as well, but maybe it's a good wake-up call that everybody needs. Yeah, no worries. That's okay. Appreciate you. Thanks. So your friend's got some pictures of some orbs. See, I think with the orbs, the plasma orbs or whatever the heck they are, I have no idea what they are, but I think it's different than what the drones are that people are seeing. So that's just my thought. I think that like there's a couple different phenomena that's going on right now. Mostly I've been talking about the drones over New Jersey, but I know that a lot of people are seeing these plasma orb things too. Or I don't know if they're plasma. I'm just saying it like that. These orbs or whatever they are. I assume they're not completely related, but maybe they are. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Still, yeah, they're not gonna. I've come to the conclusion, Nuge. It's good to see you, by the way. Thank you for joining. I've come to the conclusion, Nuge, that they are probably not going to tell us. It's at some point, if this is a defense contractor, which is still my primary theory, is that this is one of our defense contractors. When they're done doing whatever it is that they're doing, testing or whatever, it's just going to stop, and they'll distract us with another story, and they're not going to tell us what it was. That's what I think. But there's certainly other plausible theories out there. I will have to catch up on that one. I confess, guys, I don't know enough about that one right now. The train incident. Tactical Michael, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. So let's go to the New Orleans thing. Now, there is a lot of criticism going on against the city for the issue with the barricades. So New Orleans and the city where I live, Charleston, are very, very similar in a lot of ways. New Orleans is more crowded and it's bigger, it has more people, but structurally they're very, very similar. Culturally, they have some similarities. And when we do events here, the way that it's set up, right? So I'm just thinking about, I'm not going to name events and kind of put things on people's radar. The way that it's set up is that they will barricade off certain streets. They physically and logistically cannot barricade every single street. It's just not possible. So they can go so far, and then eventually they have to say, okay, we cut it off at this point, right? So everyone following me so far? So a bad guy who's looking for attacks, right? We've talked about this probing before, right? Like that this penetration and probing, excuse the innuendo, that is, where's Bacon when I need him? That is, they're looking for weaknesses in the system, and there's always going to be some weaknesses, right? So if you were a bad guy and you were looking for opportunistic ways to use a vehicle in this manner, you're just going to go to like right outside wherever those borders stopped. You're just going to go right outside that, and there's still going to be plenty of foot traffic, right? So that's probably what happened with this guy when he was, choosing his target. And people can be mad at the city, and there's probably is going to be lawsuits against the city. But realistically, there's no way to barricade the entire city. And that end of Bourbon Street, from what I understand, is like not as there's not as much happening in that end. So it makes sense to me that like they might have cut it off, at least the heavy barricades further up. I get that because again, I can think of it in the way that my city is structured here. And the example would be like we have a street here called King Street where there's a lot of things happening. Sometimes there's a lot of foot traffic on King Street. Well, there's sections of King Street where it's just not as busy, and so they wouldn't necessarily block off those sections, right? But there still is a lot of foot traffic there. You understand what I'm saying? So we can sit here and we can blame the city, but this is a bad guy who has probably thought this out quite a bit and was looking for weaknesses in the system and found one, right? And that's always going to be unfortunately possible. So what are you saying, Sarge? To just give up? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we may not be able to completely prevent these things, so we have to use some sense to protect ourselves. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute here. Like what can you do? What can I do? And understand that the city is not going to be able to protect every city block when a big event is going on, like New Year's Eve or 4th of July or Mardi Gras or whatever. Like it's just not physically or logistically possible. There's not enough manpower. There's not enough barricades. There's not enough cruisers to be able to protect every single section of a city. It's never going to be able to happen. The resources that it would take to be able to do that would be so astronomical that your taxes would go up so much that people would say, why are we doing this? You understand? All right, let's check your chat here. I see a couple people popping in. I think I saw Forager Chick. How are you doing tonight? And I think I saw Wayne popping in. Teresa D. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, where's Bacon when I'm doing that? Not that far from me. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's quite a few of us that live here in South Carolina or in the Low Country area. Ballads are an argument of mid-direction that is not valid. Misdirection, okay. Oh, Branchville. Okay, yeah, you are pretty close. Virginia Bushcraft, good to see you. How are you doing tonight? Yep. So Wayne says ballards could work in conjunction with other barricades to control access, such as reinforced fence or concrete barricades, right? And for those of you who have ever been to like Washington D.C., right? So that's another good example. Washington D.C. is huge, and it's just not physically possible to lock down the entire city. You can't do it. It's the resources that it would take to do that is astronomical. You can block off sections of it. So you could block off around the Capitol, or you could block off around the White House, or certain monuments if you were trying to protect certain monuments. But to think that you'd be able to completely shut down an entire city is just it would take all of our military resources to be able to do that for like one city. Maybe I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but you get the idea. Yep. Doc Galt, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff going on for sure. As we were saying in the chat earlier, we're not going to give in to fear and we're not going to give in to despair. We're going to continue to lead our lives. We're not going to let you don't let terrorism win, right? So continue to go to your sporting events, continue to go to your movies, continue to go to your concerts, right? But we're going to be sensible and use our head and keep our head on a swivel, and watch out for each other, know your exits, things like that. I'm going to get into that more in just a second. Ban everything. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. How are you doing tonight? Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the next couple weeks for DC. I'm sure, I hope they're taking appropriate precautions. I am a little bit worried about chatter, things like that. Correct. I agree with that. So Wayne says police leadership are largely political. They will not set that type of security protocol unless they have direct word from higher authority that they were being targeted. Also, their rules of engagement are going to be extremely limited based on the politics of whatever city it is, right? And that's all I can say about that. Um, all right, so what can we do, right? If I'm telling you, I'm not going to give up my life, my social enjoyment. I'm going to go to restaurants. I'm going to go to the movie theaters. I'm going to. I don't go to that many concerts, but if I wanted to, I would go to a concert. If I wanted to go see a sporting event, I'd go to a sporting event. So how are we going to do this and stay safe? Well, I think we need to, for number one, we need to get out of the habit of staring at our phones when you're out in large crowds, right? Like, I get it. We all love our social media, and I'm probably the worst example of that. But when you're out in a large crowd, your eyes should be mostly up, paying attention, right? You don't have to be super hyper vigilant, but periodically be checking the crowd, looking for somebody who seems to be acting weird. Do this when you're in the airport. If you ride the subway, right? Like, just don't be completely in your phone or got your headphones on all the time. Be kind of scanning the crowd. Just kind of watch people's body language, watch where their hands are, watch where their eyes are looking, right? Watch for people that seem, especially if they're in a group, are they acting suspicious, right? Are they seem to be casing somebody like they're about to commit violence, right? All of that can help. If you're a concealed carry person, then you know what I'm going to say next, which is, yeah, we need people to be sheepdogs in society, but don't just go and get your do your test and then buy a box of ammo and think you're good to go. You got to train, because if you're in a crowded situation, are you going to really fire into that crowd to take out the bad guy and possibly hurt other people, bystanders? How good are you of a shot? You probably think you're better than you are because you go to a static range and there's no moving targets. Have you ever shot at a moving target? Have you ever done something like IDPA? Have you ever done at least airsoft or paintball, so that like you can see the differences between how it is to shoot at something when it's moving and evading you and taking cover versus basically a target at a static range? It's completely different, right? And I'm not a soldier. I've never surfed combat or anything like that, but I have done some of these other trainings and things like that. And I promise you, you may be fantastic at the range. It doesn't mean that you're good against a moving target that's shooting back at you, right? So you need to train, and you need to take training with really good instructors, right? So, Bacon, we needed you before. I got Steve from Corsair Trainers here. If you're in California, why don't you go, take some trainings with Steve there? He does this stuff, right? If you're on Instagram, go check out the training that Mother Prepper's doing. I had her on my channel last year, right? Talking about kinetic movement using cover, shooting against a target that's also using cover, right? And knowing what is and what's not possible. You learn a lot from those situations, right? And what I learned when I did those kind of trainings is that the way that things look in the movies doesn't really work, right? So just as one little example, shooting from behind cover, if you're coming up out of cover, you might see somebody, this is going to look weird, right? You might see somebody in the movies come up like that with their firearm, right? So they're doing one of these things. That's giving them a huge advantage. So in other words, so what I learned is you need to be a few feet off and you pop up, right? Like that. And that little split second advantage is life or death. But that's not stuff that you will know unless you take those trainings. So don't think just because you have your concealed carry and you're carrying your firearm that you're going to be capable in a situation like this. You need to train, right, Steve? Tell them. All right, let me check your chat here. Then we'll go on. On to the next piece of us here. Situational awareness, absolutely. Head on a swivel. My wife, Mrs. Sarge, is fantastic about when we go to a place. She catches it before I do. Where are the exits? Right. If we can't go out the way we came in, where are we going? You should be doing that every time you're going into a building that is going to be crowded. You should be, if I can't get out the way that I came in, where am I going? Bacon, we needed you before. I was talking about probing and penetration, and I said, well, if I'm going to use innuendo, where's my guy Bacon? Give me some hell about it. Who else just popped in? I think I saw somebody else. Yeah, concert tickets have gotten out of control. You ain't lying there, James. They're ridiculous. Yep, agree with all that, guys. Nice job. Virginia Bushcraft says, I tried moving target a few weeks ago. It's very difficult. I plan on doing more training and practice. Awesome. Love hearing that. For crowd stays, if in a crowd state, yes, great advice there. Teresa D says, if in a crowd, stay towards the periphery, make note of the ways to get away from the crowd quickly if something's going crazy. Have something with you that will let you adjust your appearance to blend in. I love that. Let's talk about that for a minute. So when we go to an event, Mrs. Sarge and our preference is generally when we buy tickets at the periphery. I am not interested in being in the mosh pit anymore, right? Those days are in the past for Sarge. So we sit on the edges, generally close to an aisle, and we have our protocols that we follow so that if there's a problem, we know how to get out, right? And I like what you said there about having some appearance to blend in, right? So we were talking before the election, we were talking about social unrest, which still could happen here in the next few weeks. If you live near a city like me, what happens if there's a riot breaking out and you can't get your car through there? No, you're not going to just like blindly run over people if they're not threatening you, right? So you may have to, for your safety, there might be situations where you're going to have to abandon your vehicle. I keep a black hooded sweatshirt in my car. If the crowd is all wearing black hooded sweatshirts, I'm grabbing that thing, I'm putting it up, zipping it up, putting it over my head, and I'm just going to start weaving in and out until I can disappear to the periphery and get home. That's my goal. Just get home. I don't care about what's going on. I don't care about who's breaking windows or anything like that. That's not my job. My job is to get home to Mrs. Sarge, right? And that's how you got to think about this stuff. So I love that you mentioned kind of that gray man mentality. I would add to that. So for your vehicle, throw an old pair of sneakers in there. You want to run, right? So those of us who dress up for work a little bit, if you wear your work shoes, especially for you ladies, if you're wearing heels, you better have a pair of sneakers in your car if you live in areas that are prone to this stuff. Even if you're not, like, what if you just had to walk home? Throw a pair of sneakers in your car, an old pair of sneakers that you don't wear anymore. It's potentially life-saving kit. It doesn't cost you anything if you've got old sneakers lying around. All right. Some good advice on kit there. Yep. I agree with all that. Black pants, black hoodie, black ball cap, all part of standard uniform these days. Yeah, whatever it is for your area, right? So, like, if you were in San Francisco, maybe it looks a little bit more hippie-ish, right? I'm not trying to insult anybody. I was a hippie in college, so true story. So you should, whatever your environment, what the norm is for your environment and the political situation that's going on there. That's what I would try to plan for, because that's kind of the gray man mentality, right? So if you've ever visited New York, right, if you look around New York, when people are moving around in the business districts, they might be wearing a suit, but a lot of them are wearing sneakers, right? White sneakers or whatever. Maybe that's gray man for that area, right? And maybe if they need to move fast, they just ditch their tie and their suit jacket and the briefcase, and now they can run. You got to think about whatever makes sense for your area. There's a certain look, a certain fashion here for my area that people will wear, and so I probably should have some of that stuff in the car. Although I don't really love I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I don't love the fashion for Charleston. It's just not my style because I didn't grow up here. That's fine, James. Do what makes sense for you. We're just throwing out ideas. Uh, all right. So next piece here is first aid. Okay. So if you are not a sheepdog, if you're not somebody who's going to stop the threat, so to speak, at least at minimum, you should be getting first aid training, right? You should be getting your CPR and your first aid training. I just did my re-up very recently, and a couple things had changed. Every once in a while, they kind of update the protocols on that based on the latest research. So a couple things had changed. Yep, I agree with that too. That's a great suggestion to throw some hiking boots in there as well. And a worker's vest, great suggestion, like a fluorescent or high vis orange worker's vest. I love that idea that you can blend into a lot of environments there. Yep. And if people see you like moving through like abandoned properties with that, they might just think you're like a city surveyor or something like that, right? So they might not look too closely at you if you had to like get out of the way in by going through paths that you wouldn't normally take. I'll say it that way. Um, I love that suggestion. That's a good one. First, so get your first aid training if you're not already. Carry a good first aid kit in your vehicle. I don't expect everybody to carry a full first aid kit on them, right? I know a lot of people who do carry a tourniquet. Um, I keep a couple tourniquets in the car along with my first aid supplies, things like that. I've got some smaller first aid supplies in my work, but my work also has some first aid supplies that I can access too. That's you. If you can't be somebody who stops the threat for whatever reason, maybe you can be somebody who helps the victim, right? And if you can't do those two, which you should at least be able to help the victim, then at least be a darn good witness, right? This is a huge problem when you see subway incidents in New York City, right? Like that people are not being a good witness. If you see violence going down, train your brain to memorize what did that person look like. Did they have any scars or tattoos or features? Like I've got a goatee, right? And I've got glasses. What shape are my glasses, right? If you didn't work looking at the screen, could you answer that question? Um, are they maybe notice? Are they right-handed, left-handed? Notice what kind of clothes they're wearing. Notice what brand of sneakers they're wearing. Little details like that can help authorities track down the bad guys. Right now, smart bad guys might be like changing stuff as they go if they're escaping a situation. But if you've noticed like tattoos or facial features and you've tried to be a good witness, that way, that still will help, right? Like, so just I'm looking at myself in the camera here, right? Like, I've got a crooked nose. You might have noticed that. I've had my nose broken a few times. I've got the goatee, right? Like there's a shape to my glasses. So like those are distinguishing features that if you saw me in a situation doing something bad, you should be able to remember those features, right? Make sense? Yeah, good job carrying those first aid kits with you guys. Appreciate that. We got to do it. We got to do it. All right. So, very good suggestions in chat. Um, again, live our lives, guys. If we can't stop. We can't stop going to concerts. We can't stop enjoying our dinners out, our sporting events. Go and enjoy these things because if you stop, then the terrorists win, right? And that's and you're going to also hurt the economy and make yourself depressed and more anxious. We got to live our lives, but be sensible, be smart. Think about your exit routes. Think about being a good witness. Think about your first aid training. Think about what you can carry with your everyday carry. That what about a flashlight? How many people out there in my audience carry a flashlight when you go to a concert or a movie theater or sporting event, an indoor sporting event? What if the power goes down and the emergency lighting goes down? I guarantee you, because this has happened to me in a movie theater when the power went out in the building and the emergency lighting was minimal. I was the only person in that movie theater who had a flashlight. So I helped as many people as I could get to the exit. Carry it doesn't have to be big, small pocket flashlight. And yeah, if you've got a smartphone, that does technically count, but then you can't do anything else with your smartphone, right? So having a small pocket flashlight about that big is all you need, and then you can still dial 911 or take pictures or whatever you need to do, call your loved ones, and your other hand has got the flashlight. Now, some flashlights can also be an improvised weapon too, so you got to make your own decisions on that kind of stuff if what you want to carry. Good job, Forager Chick. I love seeing that. She's got a flashlight on her keychain at all times. Thanks, Verla. I appreciate that. What is, I don't even know what that is. Funny, a lot of people never think about for a medical kit is glass ionomer filling. Anonymous prepper. Can you explain that to me? Because I don't know what that is. Oh, it's for dental issues. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, as far as, thank you for saying that too. So as far as like minimum lumens, generally I tell people like 75 is like the bare minimum that I go with for a flashlight these days. And if you're outside, you really need like 500 plus, to light up your backyard and your street. Definitely a good idea to carry duct tape in the vehicle. It can be used for all kinds of things, including repairs, including first aid. In fact, Dave Canterbury says that his first aid kit is basically a rag and a roll of duct tape. Okay, thank you, Anonymous Prepper. It's dental cement, medical grade, last month's versus store bought stuff. Yeah, I guess I need to add that because I don't have that. At least for the home first aid kit. So I want to swing back to. I mean, if you guys have other ideas for like staying prepared in times of terrorism, throw them in chat. But I want to swing back to the beginning here again, and really encourage people to check out Sean Ryan's his guest, especially that I'm going to link it again. So if you've got chat up, you'll be able to just click from there. This is Sarah Adams. She was a CIA advisor, and 2 weeks before Christmas, she was on there basically saying that it was her understanding that America should be anticipating terrorist attacks in the United States. Please go watch that after you're done with me. And then the other one, which I'm not going to link because I honestly have a feeling that YouTube's going to take it down. And I don't want to like have this video taken down. So I'm just going to say, go look for it yourself, is also the Sean Ryan podcast on YouTube. And he's probably on other platforms, Sean Ryan Show. And it's the one released today with Sam Shoemate, who has a letter that he received from the Cybertruck driver for the Cybertruck that blew up outside Trump Hotel. Yeah, I agree, Steve. If you guys haven't watched that one, we've been lucky here for a long time. There's been some incidents, but what Sarah says is that it's probably going to get worse. There's been groups that do not like the United States that have been prepping for a long time. Yeah, always good to travel in groups anyways, especially if you have to do business at nighttime and that kind of thing. If you ride on the subway for work, if you can find somebody to ride with you so that you're kind of always have somebody that's got your back and you got their back. Waterproofing tape's good to have. Wayne says bang stick, trauma kit, water, light. Silcock key is a good suggestion, especially for those of us who live in the city, that you can use it to turn on water outside of buildings. Socks, underwear, snacks. Yep. What kind of snacks do you all keep in the car? I'll throw out a couple suggestions if other people don't get it, but what kind of snacks do you keep in the car? By the way, if those of you who are tuning in on Instagram, I'm live on YouTube as well. If you want to participate in the chat, I can't see both. So we have good chat going over here on YouTube if you want to swing over there. If you don't care about the chat, welcome. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you watching me. Snacks, underwear, power pack. I don't keep one in the car anymore with those lithium-ion batteries. I used to. I'm a little bit worried about, because I live in the South, I'm a little bit worried about that getting overheated. I don't know how much of a threat that is, but radios, these are all good things to keep in your pack anyways. Keep that in your EDC get home bag. You're not going camping. Your goal is to get home. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm curious what you all keep in your car for like emergency food. I have a couple suggestions that people can consider, but if you got other suggestions, I'll hear them, because that's always a tricky one because the temperature fluctuations in vehicles. Ben, everything. Yeah, some of those are pretty decent. For my headlamp, people asked me this recently. I do have a through night one that's really good, but my main one that I use around the house when we have power outages is just like one of those cheapo Energizer ones that uses AAA batteries, and then I use rechargeable AAA batteries, and I've got the recharger, and then the recharger can run off of my solar panels, my portable. So it's basically almost indefinitely sustainable. Kentucky, it's good to see you. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a good night. Slim Jims, okay. Will those any problems with those with heat? I think they'd be fine with the cold, obviously, but what about with heat? Do they any problems with that? I think protein bars are fine. I would get ones that aren't too melty and rotate them. Get in the habit of rotating. Protein bars and hot sauce. Snacks are nuts, fruit, snacks, and dehydrated fruit. So the only thing with nuts is I heard that if you're in a warm environment like me, that those can get rancid pretty quick. Um, Shelf-stable tuna packs. Okay. Mealtime pizza jerky. Cliff bars. Yep. I love Cliff bars. Freeze-dried meals. Water. Yes, you should be careful. For your multi-tool, you should be carrying Corsair trainers or. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff they made better in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of like vacuums. Vacuums used to last forever. Now they don't. Washer and dryers used to last forever, and now they don't. Lawn mowers. Oh my gosh, the lawnmowers from the 70s, you couldn't kill them. Now, if you have a lawnmower, most of the time within 2 years, you're gonna have to be doing some serious maintenance on that thing. 2 or 3 years. A couple MREs. MREs store really well in fluctuating temperatures. So good suggestion there. Instant coffee, I like that. Hard candy. Chocolate wouldn't work here in Charleston. It would just be a soupy, melty mess. But maybe if you're in a colder environment. And again, rotating is key, right? Like, so if you're going to carry some of this stuff that's going to potentially spoil, make sure you're rotating it frequently. So for me, for the car, for the vehicle, is those. Now they don't taste great, but they will give you enough calories, keep you alive for a couple days to get home. I keep those lifeboat rations for my vehicle, and those are meant to withstand crazy temperatures. And MREs are also okay. And the sometimes I will keep the Mountain House. They make a blueberry granola one that I will sometimes keep that in my car, but I'll rotate that as well. But the lifeboat rations, you can keep them in there for 5 years, and the temperatures or whatever, and you should be good to go. Do they taste great? They're okay. It's calories, and if your goal is I'm getting out of Dodge or I'm getting home, that's going to matter the most. Food you can eat on the move. I agree. Like the MREs are great because you can eat them as they are. They might not taste as good as when they're heated up, but anything that you can just like eat as you're walking and not have to heat up is probably a good idea. And then it has a pretty good shelf life is a good idea for your get home bag. All right, last chance, guys. Go ahead and vote on that poll at the top, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So I looked into those battery powered electric mowers. I don't think it's going to work for me because I've got a little bit of grading, and I don't know. You tell me. With my understanding is that if there's like divots and hills and things like that, it tends to not work as well. The lithium, but I do have ban everything. I do have some lithium powered tools and stuff like that, and lithium ion powered tools, and I like them. I have a lithium ion chainsaw that works great for small projects. My weed whacker is lithium ion battery. Got a couple of my hedge trimmer, so I got a couple of them, and I like them. They work good for me, and you can recharge that again off your solar power banks and solar power station, not the little ones, the big ones. All right. Let me go check the poll here. Bear with me. Holy smokes. 31 people voted, and 100% of you said, yes, we have sleeper cells in the United States, that we think we have sleeper cells in the United States. So if you don't know what that is, a sleeper cell is basically an organization that has been sent to conduct a mission, usually destruction. And they embed themselves into a society and wait. They wait until they're given a signal or an order, and then they do what they're going to do, right? So before we had the jerks, the scumbags who hijacked our planes and flew them into buildings, they were already in the country for a while. So technically speaking, they were a sleeper cell. We probably do have some in this country, and let's hope that the FBI gets them before they do something bad. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start. The smallest automotive kit is a little under 1,000. Yeah, you don't want to get those things overheated, the lithium-ion batteries. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Yeah, I don't know. I hope not. I don't know. Yeah, there's some alarming things. Please, guys, go watch. If you haven't watched that interview with Sarah Adams on the Sean Ryan show, please go watch it. Not trying to scare people. You need to be aware. If you're part of this prepping community, you need to be aware. You need to help other people be aware. Okay. Hopefully nothing else happens for a long time. Hopefully. Inevitably, we will get attacked again. Inevitably. But hopefully it's not for a long time. Hopefully the FBI can do their job, catch as many bad guys as they can, prevent as many things as they can. But yeah. All right, I want to wind this one down. I'll say thank you, everybody. Awesome chat, great suggestions, great feedback, great ideas. That's what this community is all about, right? Is like, we got to learn from each other, support each other. But my message for today, and for those of you, if you're brand new to my live stream, my message for today, I always end with something positive, is that it sucks when this stuff happens, right? Like, it's not good. People shouldn't have to wake up and hear that their loved ones have died, that terrorism has happened, that people have been run over or shot. But we can't prevent all of it. Unfortunately, we can't. So my message for today is to look out for each other, right? So those of you who remember, if you're old enough, maybe not everybody in my audience is, I don't know, but if you're old enough to remember when the scumbags hijacked our planes and smashed them into buildings, for a while afterwards, Americans were mostly looking out for Americans. Now, that's not to say that it was perfect. I know there was some bad stuff going on too. I had a friend who was Indian who was getting harassed by people and kind of went through hell. So yeah, there was some bad stuff going on because there's some ignorant racist people out there. But there was a lot of good stuff going on too. And a lot of Americans were looking out for fellow Americans. And those of us who knew my friend, we were looking out for him, and we were trying to help him and take care of him with what he was having to go through just for the color of his skin, really. And he had a little bit of an accent. So look out for each other, folks. That's it. That's my message for tonight is be kind to each other, look out for each other. Get that training on your first aid skills, please, if you haven't already done so. There's no reason to not get that done. If you're not going to get involved in other ways, or if you're not going to be that person who stops the threat, then at least be the person that helps the victim. Okay. You can do that. All right. I appreciate everybody. I hope you all have a good weekend and that there's peace and that we have no more incidents going on like this weekend. I will certainly be back next week. There's a lot more to talk about. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge. All right. Good night, YouTube. Good night, Instagram.